Hello, welcome to another episode of the Benchwarmers. I'm Matt, here with my co-host Ryan.
Hey everybody, welcome back again. This is the 27th episode you are listening to. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Benchwarmers06. Subscribe to our podcast on Google Play Music, Apple Podcast, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and YouTube.
On today's episode, we'll be discussing NBA offseason moves, and then we'll be discussing the MLB Home Run Derby and more MLB midseason news.
The Benchwarmers.
Alright, so let's jump right into the biggest news of them all. After we talked about LeBron and all that, let's get into the other one, which is Kawhi Leonard and being traded to Toronto. This was a surprise, as in I don't remember Toronto even being on that list as conversations. And somehow he ends up in Toronto. I know you have an upset DeRozan with the trade. He's not happy with it. He wanted to stay loyal and be with one team, and they said no, forget you, and got rid of him. So I'm a little confused on that end. Well, not really. I mean, I can see why they got rid of him. But what are your thoughts on this whole switch up where they talk about Sixers, they talk about LA, they talk about Boston, and he ends up in Toronto?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly thought LA was going to be the team because, I thought LeBron, the whole reason why he went there was, one, he wanted to be in LA, and two, I thought he was going to be able to create a super team. But it seemed like the Lakers, they really did not want to give up any of the assets needed to get Kawhi, so they rather wait the 1 year and then get him in free agency. That way they could keep their young core and then add Kawhi, which, I don't blame them for that. As a Sixers fan, I'm disappointed that we're not able to get Kawhi. But then again, I don't even think we were really in the running. I know we had pretty good assets to give up, but I don't think we were interested in to give up Fultz at the end of the day, which, it is what it is. I don't really blame. I know he didn't do much last year, and I know his shot was off, but I'm not ready to give up on him just yet, so I don't really blame the Sixers front office for not pulling that trigger. Toronto is shocking to me, but hey, I don't blame San Antonio for pulling that trigger because of the fact that in return they were able to get an all-star player in DeMar DeRozan. I know he as in DeRozan is hurt to get traded because the GM told him that he wasn't getting traded, but from what I read, the GM didn't think they had a chance at Leonard, so he told that to DeRozan before he knew that even DeRozan or Leonard was on the board. But this is a business at the end of the day, Ryan, so DeRozan's still getting paid millions of dollars, $20 plus million a year. So really, it's not like something like bad is happening to DeRozan. He gets to play basketball still. Unfortunately, I know he's not in Toronto, but San Antonio isn't some bad franchise. It's one of the best NBA franchises we've known in the last 20 years. He gets to play with a great coach in Popovich, and let's be serious, San Antonio's probably going to the playoffs. So honestly, I don't see this as like a bad negative thing for DeRozan. I know he was comfortable in Toronto and all that, but I don't really feel bad for DeRozan. But in the Leonard's case, for Toronto, to play in Toronto, I'm sure he's not that happy either because obviously he wanted to go to the Lakers or in Los Angeles, and basically Canada is the straight opposite of Los Angeles. It's a cold climate place, so we'll see how he adjusts to that. I'll be interested to see how much effort he puts into this, if he's going to go back to the primetime Kawhi Leonard that we know of, or is he just going to be like, whatever, I'll just show up so I don't get fined or lose any of my salary. So I'm interested to see how that is. At the end of the day, this is obviously a risk on Toronto's part because it's a 1 year rental. You don't know if he's going to re-sign. I guess you're hoping that the team gels and continue, tries to emulate that number one seed that they got last year and try to progress more than they did last year. Now they don't have LeBron James in the East, and they're hoping that Kawhi could be that dominating factor. He's obviously a better player than DeRozan, so I guess that's what they're hoping, and that he kind of falls in love with Toronto. Maybe Drake could help with that. I don't know, but once again, it's clearly a risk, and I guess from Toronto's side, they're like, you know what, it's a risk we're willing to take. With DeRozan, we kind of plateaued. We don't really have any more better we could do at that point. So I'm interested to see how this works out.
Do you think that they traded him because of his giving up in that series against LeBron James?
No,
and the Cavs?
no, not at all. Not at all. I honestly think they traded DeRozan because they know Leonard is the better player. And getting even if it's 1 year, having that opportunity to have I mean, let's be serious. When Kawhi Leonard is healthy, he is a top 5 talent. So DeRozan, he's a very good player. He's an all-star player, but he is not Kawhi Leonard. So I think the main reason they traded DeRozan is because of the fact that they think that the team has already done as far as they could go with DeRozan at the helm, and I think that's basically what it is. And if Kawhi doesn't stay after this year, I think they're just going to blow up the team. I think it's time to rebuild. Get rid of.
So you're basically saying that this is a risk that they're willing to take because they want to blow the team up anyway. So this is just a jump start. If Kawhi says, you know what, I still want to go to LA, forget you, Toronto, and jump ship. They weren't happy with DeRozan, like you said, because he wasn't that player. So let's just move on and push on from there.
It's not that they're not happy with DeRozan. It's more like they're going nowhere. Like, in all honesty, like they'll go to the playoffs. They'll go to the second round of the playoffs, but they're not going to win a championship with DeRozan. I think anyone could agree with that. DeRozan as your superstar player is not going to win you a championship. He can't beat LeBron James. He's not going to beat Golden State. He's not going to beat Houston. So I don't really blame Toronto for this because why be mediocre for 4 years why not just blow it up and try it again to do something else? Because I don't blame them for that because they had this core team for a few years now, and we've seen them struggle against. I mean, unfortunately, it's against LeBron James for like 3-4 years in a row. But at the end of the day,
and he's not there anymore, so they could have possibly.
They could have.
Yeah, I get it.
I agree.
I get it. They're not going to be able to beat. They're not going to be able to beat a Golden State or I think with that current team.
Honestly,
I don't agree with that at all.
No, yeah, and I don't even think they could beat a fully healthy Boston at this rate with DeRozan. So
that's fair.
So I mean, I can understand the risk that they're willing to take here because it's either you get Kawhi, let him stay, or if he leaves, you know what, blow it up. We'll try something else. We'll try to build it with a new core. And you know what, it's a fair assessment because in this NBA, either you suck or you win. Either like being in the middle ground isn't going to help you much because basically at that rate you get middle round draft picks. For the most part, middle round draft picks don't get you great players, so you might as well.
So you're basically stuck in the middle round for the rest of your time as a team until you decide to just tank.
Well, look at our Sixers. What do? Same thing, right? I mean, I'd rather be horrible for a few years, do your best to try to get those super talented guys. For us, it worked out, right? We were able to get Simmons and Embiid, so it worked out in our case. But obviously, there are cases where it doesn't work out. I understand. It's a risk. I mean, you never know what, because of the lottery, you don't know what pick you're going to end up getting. But
or if that player's even going to be that good. I mean, we've seen it with some first round guys, number 1 picks who have done nothing in their career. So I agree.
So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a risk on both parts. And honestly, I keep saying this. I don't think this is bad for DeRozan at all because I think DeRozan will do just as well as he did in Toronto and San Antonio. I mean, he isn't.
If anything, it's going to help him. I agree with you there. I think Pop is going to be able to help his career as an NBA player and help him maybe even get a little bit better to get off that plateau where he's at.
Yeah, and San Antonio has one of the best shooting coaches in the world. So he expanded his 3-point range last year, but I think this could even benefit him even greatly and have a more efficient 3-point game, which it could only help him in this current NBA.
Oh, I don't disagree at all. I think this helps him more than anything. Yeah, I get him being upset, but I agree. This will definitely help DeRozan more, and it'll definitely help San Antonio. So speaking of blowing teams up, with the Cavs losing LeBron, they basically have nothing anymore since he was the whole team. But yet they turn around and sign Love to a 4-year, $120 million deal. Do you think they're just doing this to just cover up and have him be somewhat of the star so they have someone to pay money to? and then just coast as maybe a playoff team? Or do you think they believe and love this much that he can get them somewhere?
No, I think we all know this team's not going to go anywhere. Maybe they could sneak into the playoffs. Maybe. I won't. I'm not willing to put any money on that. I think what we've seen from Kevin Love, he's a very good role player. He's a good sidekick to have. But when he is your star player, he'll put up numbers, but your team's not going anywhere. We've seen that in Minnesota when he was a star. He could put up 25, put 27 points. He could put up 13 rebounds. He could do all that. I'm not taking anything away from him from that standpoint. He'll definitely put up numbers, but his team never really does well when he is that number one guy. But you know what? From Cleveland's standpoint, I guess they figured, it's not like he's not a worthy player to get this money. I mean, he's definitely an all-star caliber player. Probably not, and he's he's 29 years old, I think. So it's not like he's some kind of old, washed-up guy. He still has a lot of talent. So maybe it was worth it to sign him. And worst case scenario, maybe next year or 2 years from now, trade him off and get some assets and build the team again, or build the team up around more younger players. So I don't just see it as kind of a negative. I think they're trying to keep Love as an asset more, basically, from a Cleveland standpoint.
I don't really fully see him as an asset. No disrespect to Love, I don't even really think he's an all-star, or at least deserves that title of all-star. That's just me and how I've seen him kind of digress as a player in general, but maybe being away from James will somehow elevate his game again, back to the shooter we saw in Minnesota when he was playing over there.
But when you say digress, what do you mean by digress?
That he's faded as the player that they picked him up for the reason they picked him up for when they got him from Minnesota.
Well, that's not an unfair accusation in my opinion, because anyone who plays with LeBron James is never going to be that player again. In Minnesota, he was clearly the primary offensive guy. So
that's my point. He's going to be able to show that again, to where, hey, this is why they picked me up to begin with, that I can shine now. Maybe he will turn back into that player. And not that it's going to help them any, but maybe it'll help him, like you said, later to be the trade bait, or later to do something with the team.
Yeah, I wasn't. I was interjecting is because of the fact that I don't think he digressed per se. I think he just tried to fit the team, a LeBron James team. Basically, what happened to Chris Bosh when he played in Miami. In Toronto, Chris Bosh was he did the same thing. He put up numbers. Then he came to Miami and he had to be a 3-point shooter to help LeBron James. Same thing happened to Kevin Love.
I thought Chris Bosh was overrated too.
I mean, but these guys, these
proved he wasn't that good.
No, but that's once again, I'm telling you, I think that's an unfair thing to say because of the fact that they were good at something when they were the primary player on a team. Then you play on a LeBron James team, and you have to kind of take that back seat. So obviously their numbers are going to go down. It's just, it's going to happen.
Yeah, but when your team is that garbage, you at least if you're a decent player, yeah, I expect that. But I expect you to at least be somewhat consistent to be that help that a LeBron James type player may need. I'm not saying he doesn't make you change your game. I know he can change your game. That's not what I'm saying. But I think he wasn't the shooter that he should have been in moving over when you're supposed to be the guy that they pass to, and he gets the ball and can't shoot the ball. That's what I'm saying with Love, and I think maybe he'll gain the confidence to have that shot back because it seemed like he lost his shot. Listen, you can change your role on a team with LeBron James. I'm not saying that, but you shouldn't lose your shooting ability that you had.
But he was never a great 3-point shooter to begin with.
The pop out man.
But he was never a great 3-point shooter.
He was decent enough. But he was decent enough to the point where he became terrible when he got to Cleveland.
Well, once again, I would disagree to say that I don't think he was a 3-point shooter. In Minnesota, he was more of a post-up player, and yeah, he shot threes, sparingly because he didn't play the same style. Then he went to Cleveland, and he kind of had to do that just to fit the offense. So it's not like he was a shooter like Dirk Nowitzki. He wasn't that type of player. He was more of a mid-range post-up guy, and then because of the way LeBron plays, he had to play in that spot-up 3-point range. So, he was okay for what he was. He still averaged probably 20-plus points a game, which, it is what it is.
So you think he's going to go back to that down-low player at the end of this?
Now he has more range. He has more freedom. He doesn't need to settle for threes anymore, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Because he had to be a spot up 3-point shooter with LeBron James because LeBron needed that freedom in the paint so he could drive it in. Now he doesn't. Kevin Love could do whatever he wants. He doesn't need to make anyone happy. He is that guy on that team now. So he could go back to being a post player or a mid range guy or whatever he wants to do. Is what I'm saying. I'm just saying I don't think he digressed necessarily. I think the what the team wanted him to do didn't completely fit his style of play.
Okay, fair enough. I can't disagree with that part of this. He didn't fit his role. What's your point? You're making valid points. I'm not going to disagree there. So, on to another player who's bumped around teams and all that is Isaiah Thomas. He prior to his signing with the Denver Nuggets, who he will be with this season, he was willing to want to go back to Boston, and then I guess things fell through and he went to Denver. He has a chance of doing something solid in Denver, but I don't think he is the player that I thought he was just overrated, and it was just because he was a small player. He's quick, and that's about it. But I don't think he was that hype that he was that 1 year in Boston before he left, where he was the all-star caliber type player. I don't see him being that maybe in Denver as much. But hey, if he can, he can. But I thought it interesting that he was willing to go back to Boston at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of a guy who fell off the face of the world, I mean, he had a pretty good career up until that playoff injury when he played for Boston. And he was supposed to make a lot of money that free agency, but that injury, that destroyed him. Now he had to sign with the Denver Nuggets for $2 million. Feel bad for the guy. I mean, he played through a lot that season, not only physically, but then his sister dying in the playoffs that year. It's crazy. Yeah, like Ryan mentioned, I don't know if he'll be back to that old Isaiah Thomas we saw in Boston. I don't think that'll be the case. I hope so. For he is a player that as an NBA fan or watching, just liking sports in general, kind of root for a guy like that. A small guy. He puts everything out there. Kind of, and the guy who people compare him to, Allen Iverson, kind of reminds you of a poor man's Allen Iverson. The way he plays. I mean, you got to respect the dedication he puts out there. But I don't know if this is the way he's gonna kind of go back or ascend back to that superstardom. I don't know if Denver's a team, because Denver has some pretty good guards. So I don't know if he's going to get that playing time. Maybe he could be that sixth man role where he comes in firing, could average close to 20 points a game from the bench. I'm sure he could do that because he's definitely skilled enough. I just don't know if his body's back to that 100% like it was pre-injury. I hope so, and I want to see that. But yeah, I don't see any more chances of him getting any kind of max contracts anytime soon or ever.
Yeah, no, I don't see it in his future. Like I said, unless he, like we both said, unless he decides to turn back to that old IT before the injury.
And another thing, another reason why he did so well. Let's not forget Boston. Brad Stevens. We've said it a bunch of times. He's a great coach. He was able to get Isaiah Thomas great looks that season. He kind of built that offense around Isaiah Thomas, which made him look really good. He was basically an MVP candidate that season. So, ever since then...
Oh, yeah, he was. And like you said, Brad Stevens is an incredible coach, and I'm still shocked at the fact he didn't win Coach of the Year this past year. But, it was great. He builds it around his players and what he needs to do, and he's a brilliant coach at that. And he, like I said, he did what needed to be done for Isaiah. And then, after that injury, he played, 5-10 games in Cleveland. They got pushed over to the Lakers, and they're kind of just overshadowing him right now. So
yeah, I think that's the reason why he kind of wanted to go back to Boston, because he knew that he had that cohesion with Stevens, and he knew that he'll try to work him in the same way. Unfortunately, Boston's even more crowded in the guard area. They have a lot of superstar players. I don't know if he would even get a couple minutes on that team. So I don't know what he would have done in Boston, but hey, maybe somehow he'll be able to do well in Denver.
All hopes to that. But speaking of another player who's, this guy, he's kind of been in the league for a long time, so of course he's going to fade off. And I'll talk about Dwayne Wade. and the fact that he was offered $25 million to play in China. Do you think he takes that offer, or does he continue to play in the NBA?
This is a tough one. $25 million is a lot of money. Not to say Dwayne Wade hasn't made a lot of money in his career. Of course he has. But I'm sure him and Gabrielle Union this is something to think about. He still has, he's not like broken down. I mean, he's broken down, but he's not like horrible. He's still a respectable player in the league still. So
he did a great job in those playoffs last year against us.
He did. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think he still could provide provides service in the NBA. So I don't think he's going to leave just yet. I think I could see him staying in the NBA this year. But I mean, the fact that China's willing to pay $25 million is crazy. But hey, if he does go to China, he'll be dominating. Stephon Marbury will be dominating the freaking China league. So I'm sure Dwayne Wade will be like the greatest thing they've ever seen. Because they think Stephon Marbury. Well, Stephon Marbury is like their Michael Jordan. So I mean, I could only imagine what Dwayne Wade could do.
This is true. He is kind of the shining star there.
I mean, they have a freaking statue after Stephon Marbury. They have a plays after Stephon Marbury. What? Stephon Marbury. So
Starberry, baby, come on.
Yeah, and Dwayne Wade is a champion. He's one of the best shooting guards we've ever seen in the NBA. So
obviously, why they pay him $25 million for his name alone? Then
yeah, I mean, and another thing is Dwayne Wade, his shoe endorsement is from a company in China. So maybe that's another reason why he would play there.
Yeah, I don't agree. I think maybe he'll finish out one more year in the NBA. He still has something to prove, and then maybe he'll jump over to the China League in a year or so.
I mean, another thing is like he has kids too that are in high school. His one son's a promising talent. So maybe that's probably another reason why I don't think he'll jump to China just yet. But something I'm sure he'll keep in mind, because who wouldn't want $25 million?
Oh yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree. So on to another oldie but a goodie in Dirk Nowitzki. He signed with the Dallas Mavericks for his 21st season he will be on, which is more than likely his last season. He has also now surpassed Kobe Bryant for the longest running tenure with one team consecutively. He is also 233 points away from Wilt Chamberlain for the 5th all-time leading scorer. Do you think he can surpass him this year to get 233? He just turned 40, by the way.
233 points is definitely something he'll be able to do as long as he doesn't get hurt. That's not really a lot of points. As long as he stays healthy, in an 82-game season, that's something he could definitely do. Hey, props to Dirk Nowitzki to play this long, man. Who would have thought, a player from Germany, drafted, I believe, in
1998.
98? Who
Yep.
you said? Yeah. I kind of wish we picked him, but no, we had to pick freaking Larry Hughes. But hey, it is what it is.
Why we gotta go back on the past and reminisce on how bad the Sixers made picks those last 45 years? Jeez.
I'm just saying, we could have had Dirk Nowitzki or Paul Pierce, but no, we had to pick freaking
Larry
Larry Hughes.
Too, all right? I mean,
Kobe Bryant was Allen Iverson. I'm not going to say anything bad about that. But this was different. Larry Hughes was a bum. I was not.
Facts. Yeah, no, facts.
But no, I mean, hey, Dirk Nowitzki's a clear-cut Hall of Famer. One of the best power forwards we've ever seen. The fact that he's able to play 21 seasons, it's crazy just to even think about that. He's played this long in the NBA. Dallas is clearly not a team that you expect to do well this season. I mean, yeah, they have Dennis Smith. They picked up Doncic in the draft. They still have Harrison Barnes and who was it? DeAndre
Jordan. Yeah, he finally went over after promising them 2 years ago he was going to go. He's finally staying there. They're also saying, speaking of, since you brought up Luka, they're saying that's the biggest reason that he is staying one more year is to coach him while playing next to him.
Well, that's nice of him to help a fellow European out. Hey, good. But I wonder how he's going to do it. I wonder if they're going to let him be a starter or be like a sixth man type role where he could, so his body doesn't break down so quickly.
He didn't start last year, I don't think.
Oh, really?
I thought he came off the bench for them.
Unless
I'm mistaken.
I don't know. I figured I would have heard about that if they came off the bench. Either way, I feel like as long as he stays healthy, he's a shooter. So I mean, shooters don't really they don't really die that quickly. It takes a while for them to lose that.
To the lane.
Yeah, he's not doing that anytime soon. He's a good spot up guy, and with guys like Doncic and Dennis Smith as the penetrators, stay in that corner and bang threes. I mean, that's something that I have no doubt Dirk will be able to do. So I mean, that passing Wilt scoring record, like I said, as long as he stays healthy, I think that's definitely a lock.
So what do you think he can do points wise then? If you're saying as long as again staying healthy, do you think he gets 600 points?
What does that average out to?
I'm throwing a random number out there. I don't know. I don't think he's going to play that many minutes. So
I think he could average like a good. I think he could average. What did he average last year? Tell me that.
Probably you think he's going to stay consistent with whatever he was last year?
Let me just. So if I'm quickly searching what Dirk Nowitzki averaged last year, he averaged 12 points a game last year. I think he could do that. I mean, 10 points, 10 to 12 points. I don't think that's crazy to think about. I mean, he could. I mean, that's a good.
Well, yeah, because 600 points was averaging about 7 points a game, not minutes, just 7 points a game. That's what 600 points is. Just quick mathematics. So you're saying that he should at least stay in that.
Yeah,
12
definitely. I mean, 12 points is 4 3-pointers. I mean, I could.
That's all you need from him, really, if you think about it.
So I mean, of course, that's just an average. Obviously, some games he might have 20, some games he might have 8. But hey, he's Dirk Nowitzki, so I'm not doubting him.
No, fair enough. I agree. You know, it's nice to see that he was able to stay with one team. It's nice to see that he wants to help a fellow European out and groom this kid to be the next, big thing. I respect that a lot, And he's only 40. They're saying this could be his last year, but I mean, look at Vince Carter still playing. What is he, turning 42 this year and still continuing to play in the league?
Yeah, Vince Carter's a freak of nature, though.
This is true, although so is Dirk. I mean,
two different definitions of the freak of nature, all right? Vince Carter could still freaking do like 360 dunks.
All right, fair. And this man can still, drain threes at his age, but you don't have to do as much with that. But right for himself to play for the same team 21 seasons, still phenomenal. And congratulations to him on that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's a huge accomplishment. Clearly, I mean, we already knew that him and Mark Cuban have a great relationship, so this is not really a shock. On to baseball, where we'll begin by discussing the home run derby. Where
our picks looked real good, didn't they?
Well, my pick of Rhys Hoskins at least won the first round because he beat your boy Jesus.
Oh, forget you! All right.
I just want to say that. I told you Rhys is going to win.
Well, he only won the first.
That's
round.
all I cared about. That's all I cared about. All right, he beat Jesus.
Fine. All right, you got that much. But your boy that you talk so much trash about decided to tell you something.
Yeah. So Bryce Harper ended up winning the championship. And when I say championship, I mean home run derby. He ain't gonna win no actual championship. He beat.
Still hating on him, I see.
I'm saying facts. He beat Kyle Schwarber from the Cubs in the finals. There was actually some controversy in here because of the fact that his dad was the pitcher for him, and the rule is you can't pitch until the ball hits the ground. The previous ball hits the ground, and he was down with a minute left, and his dad just started winging pitches. Technically, that's illegal because the ball didn't hit the ground, yet he still did it, and he won. Interesting. So basically,
we're called cheating.
Yeah,
cheating.
This is where Ryan would say controversy and say some stuff and say it's cheating and flip out here. So I don't know why he isn't here. So
conspiracy theories, man. It's all about the Russians.
Are you calling Bryce Harper a Russian?
No, well, the fact that it was in Washington is my conspiracy theory on this one. The Russia thing was because it was in Russia. This is because it was in Washington. They wanted to win, so they didn't care about the illegal things that his dad were doing. So conspiracy theory that Washington just wanted their own Washington player to win. That's all I'm saying. He didn't deserve to win. I'm going to leave it at that.
Which, hey, I'm all with you there. I mean, if the rule is the rule that you can't pitch until the ball is on the ground, why would you let the guy pitch? I feel like it's common sense.
Why do you even let him win at that point? Like, just take those home runs away. Obviously, they weren't valid.
Yeah, clearly no one cared because it's the home run derby and it's baseball.
Fact, like we talked about, dying slowly.
Moving on to more important baseball news. Superstar, shortstop, third baseman Manny Machado from the Orioles got traded to the Los Angeles Dodgers. We all assumed that Machado was getting traded before the deadline. there was a lot of teams in the run that were expected to get him. I was hoping the Phillies was one of them. Once again, get screwed by LA.
Damn you, LA.
Yeah, so you can say that again. Freaking Magic Johnson. The Dodgers gave up a bunch of prospects to get Machado. Clearly, they're in that win now mode. They want to, basically make sure that the lineup is set to, beat all the good teams when it comes postseason time. I think it's a good fit for Machado. I mean, he's clearly a star player, and playing for the Orioles, you really don't go to the playoffs, so now he gets to, experience postseason play, which is good for, it's obviously good for him as a person, but also, for casual fans, most casual fans only watch the playoffs of baseball, so at least more people will get to watch Machado in the playoffs and know who he is and see how great of a player he is. So that's good, and also more exposure. He's in LA now. Probably him and LeBron are going to hang out. Not cool. Could have been Philadelphia, but hey, it is what it is. Ryan, what are your thoughts on this trade? Do you think that this was? Do you think that the Dodgers gave up too much to get Machado?
I hope he chokes in the playoffs like LeBron. Damn it. Yeah, I think the Dodgers gave up a little bit too much for him. Listen, he's a great player. I'm not saying that. I just feel that those prospects were some prospects that they could have actually done a lot more with later than to pick up this guy just for the long haul. But obviously they're doing like what you said. They're looking for the playoffs. They're looking to get there and take it all, and they feel that Machado can do that. And I'm not saying he can't. I just we'll see how his playoff experiences, lack thereof, will show come playoff time. As we know, when especially being Phillies fans, comes playoffs, sometimes your players don't perform the way you want them to. So, it's just one of those things where it'll take time, and we'll see where or if he progresses. I mean, I think they gave up too much, but he's definitely a guy that can do a lot for them, and they're looking for that playoffs. That's all they care about. They don't care about their future necessarily. They don't figure they're LA. They're a big name city. They'll be able to get some players when they need them to. So they're not worried about their farm system as much.
Our last note in baseball. Speaking of the Phillies, last time that we won the championship, we had a great second baseman on our team, and it seems like his career is going to come to an end. The guy I'm talking about is the great Chase Utley. He's going to retire after this season. He's currently playing his last series against the Phillies. Chase Utley was the ultimate professional. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. The only time I really watched baseball was basically when he was in his prime. That's when the Phillies were actually good. We would go to the playoffs basically 5-6 straight years. We went to 2 World Series. We won one. He was part of that core. Him, Jimmy Rollins, Ryan Howard, Cole Hamels. That was that core for that stretch of time for the Phillies. So I have nothing but respect for Chase Utley. He was one of my favorite baseball players. He was a great defensive player. He was a great offensive player. He was a great teammate. You really don't hear anything bad about Chase Utley at all. He kind of just did his thing. And in my opinion, he should make the Hall of Fame. I can understand he's a borderline Hall of Fame player, but in my opinion, he's a Hall of Fame player. And I think he had a great career. And hey, it's unfortunate. Not really unfortunate, but it's sad to see him play his last few games against the Phillies because kind of wish he kind of retired as a Philly personally because clearly that's where he had the most success. But obviously it's a business, so you kind of know that it doesn't always work out the way you want it to. Ryan, what are your thoughts on the great Chase Utley?
Obviously, your bias was showing there with Hall of Fame mode, but I don't disagree. He definitely deserves it. He's had a great career. And to your point about retiring as a Philly, that's not necessarily, it won't happen. He can still sign a one-day contract and retire right after that as a Philly. It's something that I could definitely see happening with how great of a career he did have in Philadelphia. Obviously, he's not going to play the season with us, which, yes, I agree, is anything, but you still sign that one-year deal, one-day deal with Philadelphia, and then retire as a Philly. So, I definitely see that happening as a possibility for him as long as Philadelphia would like that. I know one of one of my friends sent me a video. He was at the last game for Utley, and the fans went crazy cheering for him. And just much respect for him, even playing with the Dodgers. They still cheered him on, and we're happy to see him there, even though they were playing against them. And the fans were respectful of him as much as he was respectful of the fans his whole time here, and even when he left. Like I said, he's been a stand-up guy, and it is said that he's going to be retiring, but he had a great career, and he'll figure out something to do in retirement. And like I said, hopefully they let him at least sign a one-day deal to retire with the Phillies. But like I said, definitely one of my favorite second basemen. Loved watching him play. Watched him back then when we were winning the World Series and making it to the World Series the second year back to back. Too bad we couldn't have won. But hey, congratulations to Chase Utley on a fantastic career, I think.
What are your thoughts on the fact that we did cheer for him and give him a standing ovation? Do you think that's...
I think that just shows the great character that he had, and the love that he gave to the fans, and the fans loved him back.
Even though he's playing for a opponent?
Yeah, I mean it's the same thing. He was a staple to that team, to that World Series team. Just like he was one of the all-stars. He was the star for that team. It was like when Allen Iverson came back when he played with Denver, every fans cheered him. Same thing with him. Utley was a stand-up guy more and all that. No disrespect to Allen Iverson, but he still was a star for the team. He got us. He was one of the key players as to getting us to that World Series. He was a big part of that team, and the fans respected him for that. He respected the fans and always was gracious to the fans and all that. And I respect the fact that they were, because Philadelphia fans are not the easiest to cope with, and the fact that they did that was very respectful, and I think it's very appreciative to show what kind of a player he was.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely understand. I'm kind of torn only because he isn't the opponent of the other team. He is a part of the opponent's team, but I mean, I get it. He was a part of our team during his prime, and definitely a part of our championship team. So I get both sides. It is weird for cheering for an opponent, is what I'm saying. But I get both sides. Like, of course, I would cheer for Allen Iverson, or and in all these cases, it's the same. But it just I could understand both sides, because there's some people who did criticize the fans for cheering for an opponent.
It was, well, I don't disagree with that. I mean, I get the back and forth. The one, it was his last at bat. It was he went 0 for 4. But again, you cheer for somebody that was respectful to you as a fan, and who did something for your team. And said I was there when Allen Iverson came back in a Denver Nuggets jersey, and I cheered for him. I went to the game, ended up not playing when he was a Detroit Piston, and still cheered for him. I mean, when a player does so much for your team, you can only help but cheer for them at the moment that they're there. I'm not saying you cheer for them on every play. That's different. That's not something I did or would do. But out of respect to that player for what they did for the city, it's it's respect to them to cheer for them. That's my only thing there. All right, in today's hot topic, let's talk about a man by the name of Tiger Woods. Yes, I'm bringing up golf as my hot topic this week. The British Open was this past weekend, and Tiger Woods was leading it going into the last round. Something we haven't seen from Tiger, was actually leading a major tournament, doing something for once. It was great to see. It was great for him. It looks like he's back in full swing. Now, he didn't end up winning. He ended up falling off in the last round, but he still finished in the top 10, which, again, he was looking like the Tiger Woods that we first saw back when he was winning championships. It was a fun time to see him back to form after some of the injuries and hardships he's had over the last few years. But to see him back to somewhat of a form, and even if he ends up retiring in the next couple of years, at least he's back to that form and not something where it was like, oh, he was something and now he's nothing. It looks like he's getting back in the form to be that something again.
Yeah, I mean, I think most people know me and Ryan are not golf fans by any nature, but when Tiger Woods is in the game, or if he's on top of that leaderboard, or if he's in the chase, we care, because I'm sure it's not any different with any other fan of golf or casual fans of golf. When Tiger Woods is in it, we tune in. It is what it is. I mean, it's been the case for close to 20 years. When Tiger Woods is involved or he has a chance to win, people tune in, and the fact that he was in the running in the British Open, which the fact is it's a very hard course from what I heard, one of the hardest courses, and that's kind of why he kind of lost his lead in the last round. He had a bunch of bogeys that ended up making him lose. He lost his lead. It's unfortunate, but hey, it's still a top 10 finish, like Ryan mentioned. If he could basically have this help him, gain momentum in the next few tournaments. Honestly, before this, I would have said there was no chance of Tiger Woods winning another major tournament. But after seeing what he did this weekend, I don't think I can say that anymore. I think he definitely has it in him to win another major tournament. I'm not saying he's going to be back to the ultimate Tiger Woods that we saw in his prime, but you can never count this guy out. He's a player, an athlete similar to Kobe Bryant, where when you say he can't do something, he's definitely going to do everything he has trying to prove people wrong. So I don't want to be the guy who says that he can't do it, but hey, all I can say is if he does do it, a lot of fans, casual fans, will be back watching golf again, because I know for a fact that viewership in golf has definitely dipped tremendously since Tiger was his prime, because of the fact that none of these other golfers really are ever going to get that fan viewership. The fact that the way that Tiger does. I mean, of course, there are some great players like Rory McIlroy or Jordan Spieth, and I know we didn't even mention the guy who actually won the British Open, Francisco Molinari. And these guys, they're good players, but let's be serious, they're not Tiger Woods. They'll never be Tiger Woods. So it's a sad story for golf, but I mean, one guy basically tilts your viewership, but it is what it is. So I hope Tiger Woods, this helps him, gain some momentum in the future tournaments. For my hot topic for this week, goes back to the World Cup. He comes from the champion nation of France. Their star goal scorer, Kylian Mbappe. He ended up donating all his earnings from the World Cup to charity, which ends up being close to $350,000. That's not no small chunk of change there, Ryan. I mean, of course,
you and me, it's not.
Exactly. I mean, granted, he makes $20 million a year playing for PSG, so I'm sure for him, $350,000 is not a lot. But hey, I mean, I think most people would say, money is money. You want to take it. You probably won't give all of it to charity. But the fact he did, I mean, it's very generous of him. And in today's day, when athletes do something good, you don't really hear about it. It's not publicized. Where if they do something bad, whether it be domestic abuse or DUI or anything dumb, you hear about it. It's on front page news. But if something like this, where they do something good and nice, you don't hear about it. Which kind of the reason why I brought this up. So I think this is a very nice gesture on his part, and I hope this is something that more players that are athletes do in the future to help those that are less unfortunate.
Yeah, no, I mean, I made a joke. It's a lot to us, but in general, that's a lot to any charity, and much respect to him and all for even wanting to donate that kind of money. I respect the person who's willing to give back to a charity or a community or something like that. So I appreciate what he's done. And like Matt said, you don't hear about that kind of stuff. So it's good to talk about the good stuff and not bring up all the bad decisions that some players make. And he's making a ton of money with PSG, and they're saying he's going to make even more money for another team that may pick him up this year. So again, still a good thing, and for all we know, he could be given a portion of his salary to some other charities too. But like I said, you don't hear about it, so it's much respect for him to even donate his salary from the World Cup to a charity. And like I said, you don't see it every day, and hopefully more people do stuff like this. Like LeBron James, I know, helps out his community and all that kind of stuff with and donating a portion of his salary to help rebuild his community, stuff like that. So again, stuff you don't hear about, but you hear the negative about LeBron James and all that kind of stuff. So, all these kind of players, that do this kind of stuff, and even actors and actresses who donate to charities, it's a great cause, and again, much respect to everybody who does that kind of stuff.
Well, that's all we have for this week's episode of the Benchwarmers. Once again, please subscribe to our Twitter at Benchwarmer06. You could also subscribe to our podcast, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and YouTube. Thanks again.
The Benchwarmers.